so what we're going to be looking at here is just solving some different types of percent problems. So we're going to look at 3 different types. So problems where we have to find the percent of things, so something like what's 20% of 35. Okay, problems where we have to find the percent, so like 30 is what percent of 50, and find the original number, so something like 18 is 90% of what number. Okay, the third one's probably the least common one you'll run across, but occasionally you'll see it. So, and we're going to look at 2 different methods. So we'll look at a proportion method. The nice thing about the proportion method is it's the same proportion for all 3. So if you're struggling with some of these, this would probably be the kind of the way to go. Like I said, the advantage is that proportion works for all 3, and we'll look at it a little bit closer here in a second. And then I do provide kind of a shortcut. This is more maybe the old school way of doing this. Again, if you're fairly good with numbers or can pick up on the shortcut, it's usually a little bit quicker than setting up a proportion. It's just a little bit different technique for each one. So it really kind of depends on how comfortable you are with solving these, but we'll go over both methods for all 3. All right. So type of. First type, percent of. So our example here is what is 20% of 35? Okay. Now our proportion, I'm going to write this a little bigger for you, follows the same format. So with our proportion, okay, half of our proportion is always the percent written as a fraction. So we've got the percent over 100. Okay, and then if you think about a fraction, part over whole, right? So when I say something like 1/4, there's 4 pieces in a whole, 1's part of that. Now there's a couple of kind of clue words or keywords we look for. You might hear other teachers use these as well. They say is over of. So that'll kind of help us if we're struggling a little bit with the part and the whole with that. So let's look at the problem here given to us. What is 20% of 35? Okay. What is 20% of 35? All right. So a couple clues to look for here. We know a percentage. All right. And then got of 35. So we use those 2 clues. If we're using the proportion, we use those to kind of help us. So percent over 100. So 20 is our percent, so it goes over 100. Okay, and then we've got to figure out the 35. The 35 is the whole. We're finding a portion of the entire thing. 35 is the entire thing. If you struggle a little bit with that, again, that of keyword kind of helps you out. Is over of. The of is the whole. So we put 35 on the bottom, and our numerators are unknown, so we're going to put our variable there. Okay, and then we just want to solve for x, right? So we cross multiply 20 times 35, and we divide by 100. So that is 700 divided by 100, which is 7. And always make sure that kind of makes sense. 20% of 35 is 7, right? 7 is a smaller chunk of 35. That seems reasonable. Okay. All right. So that's using the proportion. If we were to use the shortcut method, oops, that's not what I wanted to do. There we go. So let me erase this here. So essentially what the shortcut method tells us to do is, and this is up in the table up there if you need to read it. Okay, it says change the percent to a decimal, and of means multiply. So I'm just going to do the decimal form of the percent and multiply. Okay. So all I would do on this is go, well, 20%, that's 0.2, or 0.20 times 35. So I could get the same result that way, right? And you can use a calculator to help you out with that if you need to. Okay, so that's a percent of problem. All right, oops, keep erasing the wrong thing. Let's try this again. There we go. All right, our second type of problem is find the percent. 30 is what percent of 50? So you're shooting 50 free throws, you make 30, or you get 30 out of 50 on a test or something like that. Okay, so again, if we use that proportion, get this erased here. Okay, so our problem was 30 is what percent of 50? Okay, so in this case, I don't know the percent, so that's where my variable would go, to go where the percent sign is. So x over 100 And we've got 30 is, and of 50. And so we've got kind of getting those is and of clue words there to help us. So 30 goes on top, 50 goes on bottom. 30 is the part, 50 is the whole. Okay, and then we just cross multiply 30 times 100 divided by 50. Gets us 60, and this one we got to make sure we add the percent sign since it's a percent. Okay, 60%. All right. Now, kind of the shortcut for that is we can kind of just think of it as being a fraction. So 30 over 50. I can change that to a decimal with division, so that's equal to 0.6. Again, you can use your calculator to help you if you need to. And then decimal to percent, remember we move right 2 places. Okay, so really 2 methods. Again, we could use that proportion, or we could just take the right part of the proportion, change that fraction into a percent by changing it to a decimal first. Okay. And then our third type we're going to look at is find the original. So I know a percent. I know the part, I'm trying to figure out the whole. Okay, 18 is 90% of what number? Okay, so again, kind of some clues to look for. We know a percent, right? And we've got our 18 is, and then of what? So I know my percent. My percent always goes over 100. Okay, 18 is of what? We don't know our of. We don't know our whole. Okay, so we're going to set our proportion up there. So again, all 3 of those problems, we're just missing one of those 3 parts. It's just a matter of determining where those 3 things fit in there. That's the kind of the nice thing about the proportion is use the same one for those different types of problems. And again, on this one, we just want to cross multiply. So 18 times 100, which is 1800 divided by, oops, not equals. Let me try that again. Thing doesn't want to cooperate today. Divided by 90. Okay, again, we cross multiply and divide. So that is going to get us 20 as our answer. Okay, we think about 18 out of 20, that's really close to 100%, right? That's 90. Okay, now the other way we can do that, erase this. And honestly, with this type of problem, I think the proportion works best. It makes the numbers kind of the easiest to look at how we deal with it. But we could take that percent and change it to a decimal. Okay, and then we can take that number. And since 18 is less than 100% of something, the number's got to get bigger. So we're going to divide by that decimal. So I could also do it that way. And that would also give me 20. Okay. All right. So again, the table's there if you need to kind of refer back to it. If you get stuck, try the proportion, right? The shortcuts are nice once you kind of get a hang of it and kind of see some patterns and things like that, especially if you have a calculator. But if you do get stuck, try and set up that proportion. If you're not sure, do I use the decimal form? Do I multiply? Do I divide? That the proportion kind of takes the guesswork out of it.